All right. Here we go, back again on the other side of the coin.
All right. Here we go, back again on the other side of the coin, and I've got my main man, Lyes, Man United fan, Lyes. It brings a lot of talk, a lot of game in my show, and I love that. And the first time when we talked about these things, he let us know. He let us know there was some, important information, I suppose, he gave us in regards to Frank Lampard and Solskjaer and whatnot, and how he saw both those things. And it's timely that we kind of talk about these things and revisit these situations. But first of all, Lyes, my man, when this clueless American speaks, you listen. How you doing, bro?
Bro, it's 7:30 a.m. here in the U.S., here in New York, but I'm ready to spit some ball. I'm ready to spit some facts and talk about Thomas Tuchel, talk about Frank Lampard, and get right into it.
Brilliant, bro. Brilliant. Look, first of all, before we get into the whole sacking of things with Frank Lampard, I want to go through a bit of a journey here, because I want to paint a good picture for our viewers. I want to talk about what Frank did for us last season. Briefly, not massively. We'll talk about the whole sacking and some of the reports, athletic stuff that's come out, Matt Law, and then I want to talk about, obviously, Tuchel, right? So, first of all, from your perspective, Lyes, you being a Man United fan, you've said this in previous shows as well on my channel, that Frank's first season, let's be honest about it, it was somewhat of a successful season in the sense that transfer ban, Eden Hazard gone. Very few expected us to be in the top four. A lot of our Chelsea fans actually didn't even expect to be in top four. But he ended up getting there somehow at the end. And overall, I feel like it was a good season. How did you sort of see the first season from a rival's point of view?
From a rival's point of view, I thought last year, I personally did not believe Chelsea were going to come top four at the beginning of the season. I don't think most people shared that view as well. I thought like it was common consensus that Chelsea, coming off a transfer ban, coming off losing their best player, the best player in the league, in Eden Hazard, I thought it was general consensus that, coming top four and even making an FA Cup final, which you went on to do, wasn't realistic. It wasn't that wasn't like everyone's aim for Chelsea. And for me, I'll give Frank Lampard credit here. I think he exceeded expectations by doing both of those things. However, when you get into your second season and all of that money is used to fund you and you build this super team, the expectations go up. Top four is not a bare minimum anymore. And I said, for me, top four in an FA Cup final was a success. Clearly, reading off what we've seen in the last few hours and the last day, that wasn't a success for Roman Abramovich. But we'll get into that.
No, 100%, man. Obviously, got a few to everyone that's joining. Thank you, first of all, for joining in. Please smash that like button while you're here, and throw in your comments. I've got a comment here from Drew Manuel. I think might sort of annoy a few people, but then again, I mean, it is a comment. Frank did nothing major last season. He was elevated for being white British plus managing big players. It's a tough job. I mean, look, we will go straight past that one. Man, you're right. Like last season, obviously he did what he had to do. This season, as you've mentioned, lots of money spent. New players coming in, big personalities as well. There's a lot of. Let's get into this whole sacking things. I think it's important to start talking about this sacking now.
Yeah, let's do
There's
it.
a lot of talk. There's a lot of reports from the Athletic saying that Frank Lampard's only signing, the one that he really wanted, like his genuine signing, was Ben Chilwell. Every other one wasn't really his signing. It was more the club making those signings. Now, I've been saying in the last couple of weeks that, and I think you might have mentioned as well that, with Timo Werner, not sort of playing in his original or his normal role, Havertz is someone that Frank Lampard has been struggling to find out what is his best role. I've sort of come to a conclusion that perhaps these are not the players that he kind of wanted. Because if you wanted a player, you would know how to utilize them, right?
Yeah.
And the article goes on to say that he definitely wanted Declan Rice. He definitely also wanted James Tarkowski from Burnley to reshape the defense. Basically, what I'm trying to get to, and I want to get your opinion on this, Lyes, is how much of an impact was this, as opposed to Frank having so many new players, being a rookie manager as well? I mean, surely for any manager, it'd be so difficult to get, all of these players to fit in. But for a rookie manager, it would be tough as well, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And I did read that article. I did see Ben Chilwell was the only player that Lampard personally wanted, alongside Declan Rice, Tarkowski. I remember there were Lewis Dunklinks at one point, huge Lewis Dunklinks. But for me, yeah, I think you got it spot on. It's very hard to acclimate all these new players, let alone 8 or 9 of them. And I said a while ago, it just looks disjointed when you watch Chelsea play. And I think that was the perfect word looking back on it, because you see all these different profiles, all these players that play in different systems, all these players that thrive in different setups. Hakim Ziyech is a guy with a masterful final ball, but he's trying to play a final ball into Timo Werner, who's 5'6", and his strength is running in behind, not getting on the end of long balls like that. And then you have Pulisic, who wants to run at players. You have Havertz, who wants to find himself in spaces in between, where you kind of have to build a team around him. We'll get into Kai Havertz in a bit too, because I have major question marks surrounding him now that we have a new manager coming in. But yeah, like I'm saying, there's just too many different profiles, too many different personalities coming in at one point. And to top it all off, they're being managed by a manager who has very little experience. And I think he kind of lost his cool. Like, he didn't have the temperament, the experience to kind of settle everything down, see what he wanted. When players got unhappy, wrapping an arm around them. Like, he didn't have that experience to do all of that. So it was too much, too early for Frank Lampard.
No, 100%, man. I want to just quickly touch on, because you are a Man United fan, and I want to know, Ole has gone through some bad times as well. There's been some bad phases.
Oh, yeah.
But one of the things that you've always alluded to is that somehow he managed to always squeeze out of it. Now, in our instance, there's been a lot of talk, and I want to get into this particular topic a lot, because this has become a huge issue now. A massive part of our fan base is trying to pinpoint, deflecting all of these blame to players. Apparently, the fringe players are the ones that drove Frank Lampard out. A lot of them are starting to believe that was the major issue. I'm trying to say that is not the major issue. I mean, that may be one of the issues, but that cannot be the major issue if your fringe players, our fringe players, Lyes, are Rudiger, Jorginho, Kepa, whoever else is there. These players would not have the power to drive out a club legend like Frank Lampard. Like, the board is not stupid. Do you know what I mean? The board sees Frank Lampard, and they're not going to bend over backwards for these deadwood players. I want to know, from your point of view, when Man United was going through that sort of patches which they have, were there any deadwood players that sort of gave your club a bit of concern? I know there was a lot of concern about Pogba, but it felt like the players never had that much power over the manager, right?
Let me tell you that. Let me tell you this. Remember, I told you Solskjaer is a master of man management, and he comes from the same school as Sir Alex Ferguson. And something Sir Alex Ferguson always did as Manchester United manager, the minute he saw a player kind of turning on him, he didn't even wait for his decline. He kicked him out the door. You look at Ruud van Nistelrooy, David Beckham, Jaap Stam. All of these are first of all greater players than Jorginho, Alonso, Kepa. These are all-time great United players. But the minute he saw they weren't buying into his philosophy, he kicked them out. Now, that's not to say Ole did that with any of his best players. What Ole did when he first got into the job, everyone started with a clean slate. They were coming off a really poor period of Mourinho, and he gave everyone a clean slate. He said, "Okay, you guys are all good in my books for now." And as he went into the job, he analyzed who he could trust and who he couldn't trust. And if you remember, I told you he threw his players under the bus one time in the last 3 years. And it was after the Everton game when we lost 4-0. And he said, "I'm going to be a success here. And a lot of these players aren't going to be." And to be honest with you, he was true to his word, because at that point, he had already analyzed the players he wanted to stick by him, which were Anthony Martial, Marcus Rashford, Luke Shaw, Paul Pogba, Scott McTominay. Keep those names in mind, by the way. Keep all those names in mind. And the players he wanted to get out that he knew could not be on his side. Alexis Sanchez, Romelu Lukaku, Ander Herrera, Matteo Darmian, Chris Smalling. The next window, what did he do? Before he even made one signing, the first player out the door was Lukaku. The second player out the door was Alexis Sanchez. The third player out the door was Herrera. The fifth player out the door was Smalling. He got all of the players that he didn't think were 100% behind him, all of the players that were kind of raising up doubt in the dressing room. Why am I not playing? Why is this happening? He got them all out. And if you said, why do all these players always back him? Who are the players that always save his ass every time he's in trouble? It's the players I named. Scott McTominay, Anthony Martial, Marcus Rashford, Paul Pogba, Luke Shaw, all those guys, because he put faith in them from day one. And they had his trust. They knew that he stuck by them every single time. Every time he's in trouble.
I just want to pause you and I'll let you carry on. That point that you just made, believing in the whole group and sticking by them, rigorously at certain times. It's so important. I feel like Frank didn't do that either. Like, I don't know if he created a whole group. Do you know what I mean?
Frank did that last year with that young group of players that they were his guys. Tomori, Mason Mount, Hudson-Odoi, Tammy Abraham, and even to an extent Christian Pulisic. Those were his guys. He stuck by with them no matter what last year, and they got him top 4. Those are the players that got him top 4. The problem is this year, the board threw him all these fancy toys. I don't know if you want to blame Frank Lampard for throwing his guys out or the board for putting too much pressure on him to play these players. But at the end of the day, he kind of ditched his toys, his guys, minus Mason Mount, who is always his guy, which I'm not going to criticize Mason Mount. He's been your best player this year. But he kind of threw those guys all out the water for his new toys. And to that point, about the Deadwood, I think that's the problem. Like, I wouldn't blame Kepa. The fact that players who don't play are unhappy is natural, but it's on the board and it's on the club to get rid of those players. You don't keep players that don't play ever on the bench just unhappy, because it's natural that they're going to start planting seeds of doubt into the locker room. They're going to be asking, okay, well, why am I not playing? And then when Havertz doesn't play, who's Havertz going to go to when he's not playing? He's going to go to Rudiger, who's already unhappy, and Rudiger's going to start talking to him. Why am I not playing? Well, maybe it's because Lampard isn't the great. That's how unrest in the dressing room starts. Sir Alex, I don't want to keep bringing it back to Sir Alex, but even Jose Mourinho. Jose Mourinho always saw the guys that were with him and the guys that weren't with him. They got kicked out immediately, right or wrong. He wanted a dressing room that was fully behind him. Unity was the biggest word in that.
Les, on this particular point, before I want to go to the next one, when Frank, look, let's be honest, Frank would have known who are the bad apples in the group. He would have known 100%, right? What could he have done to ensure that I don't want these bad apples to create an influence in the team? As you said, Sir Alex and Jose, what could he have done? Because I feel like it's too easy to blame the fact that, these bad apples created a bad environment. Well, you're the manager. Do something to make the environment better. What do you reckon from your point of view that he could have done? Because I feel like if I saw a bad apple, Les, I would have said, mate, you're going to the youth team. Don't even come to the training, because you're creating a bit of a mess. I'm going to go and tell the board about it, and I'm going to be honest about it. Do you know what I mean? Surely Peter Cech, Marina and the hierarchy people, whoever they are, they would have seen, or even Jody Morris, the assistant coach, would have seen that these bad apples are creating a bit of a rift in the group. So they should have taken actions, right? Yeah, well, first of all, I again, like I said, I've read the Athletic article, I've read the Telegraph article, and for me, a huge thing that comes out of that is that Frank Lampard did not speak to a lot of those players for months, which is extremely concerning, because regardless of if they are in your long-term plans or not, as a manager, to isolate players like that, there have been players at many clubs that are completely out of the water, and they managed to resuscitate their career. So to completely give up on a lot of them, because he's not forced to play any of them, but to not talk to them for months basically it cuts off any connection. You're done. You lost the player at that point. No, however, 100%. I have been criticizing Lampard for weeks, but I'm not going to do that here. I have to disagree with this. I think that's on the board. The board had you were talking about Sir Alex and Mourinho. The thing with them is that they have full control of the club. Like, they're bigger than just a manager. Sir Alex Ferguson's role at Manchester United was bigger than manager. He was every single role bar owner. So he had that power. If he doesn't like you, you're done. You have no chance. Lampard doesn't have that power, or he didn't have that power at Chelsea. That was on people like Marina, like Petr Cech, to get rid of those guys. Maybe I don't know if Lampard told them. I don't rate them, but he must have, right? I think what happened here is that I think he did tell them,
Yeah.
but the pandemic played a bit of a role of how easily these players could have been shifted away.
No doubt.
The Athletic article has clearly stated that there was Rudiger, there was Alonso, there was Jorginho. Some of these players, Frank had actually put out and said that there was even, to a certain instance, Frank was even open to letting go of Azpilicueta. That's what the article was saying. So I feel there was definite intention for these players to be let go of, but due to the pandemic, there was a lot of clubs that shut their shops, and it wasn't easy to get rid of all of these players. Do you know what I mean? And you know Marina very well. She's not going to get rid of these players for cheap, especially Kepa. Kepa would have been a monstrous, loss. And
but
she was never.
I think you have to take that loss. Like, for example, he was a monstrous loss. I'll tell you another player who was a monstrous loss for United. It was Alexis Sanchez. Alexis Sanchez was being paid £500,000 a week at United. That's Lionel Messi territory. But what the club did, and again, like, this isn't, United is far from the best run club, but this is just an example to show how they backed Oli. And when Oli told them something, it was like, okay, we'll get it done. They paid him almost half of Alexis Sanchez's wages. So they were paying a player £250,000 a week to play for a team another country away, just because they considered him that much of a locker room disruption. Yeah,
true, man. True talks. Look, I'm not going to deny the fact that the board probably should have done better. This is why I say this is the other side of the coin. I understand why the board has gone out and got all these players, because they saw an opportunity during pandemic that financially there was no other competition, so they got out there and bought all these players. And I can also see how they found it difficult to get rid of some of these players that were not wanted. So, look, it is what it is. At the end of the day, the last question I want to ask before we go into the whole Tuchel thing. Do you think it's fair, though, to state that one of the biggest issues was these players, or do you feel, and this is how I feel, is that ultimately results is what drove Frank Lampard out? The results are the ones that finally dictate terms. If you're not going to win enough games, eventually it's going to be lights out, especially at a club like Chelsea. Absolutely. 2 months of bad form is not something Chelsea Football Club can allow, especially Roman Abramovich just simply can allow that. How do you feel about that? Do you feel, was it the results, or was it really the players, the fringe players, that drove Frank Lampard out?
I mean, like you said, your channel is called The Other Side of the Coin. We're going to look at both sides of the coin. I think really both sides are true. Like, you can look at both arguments. Both of them are the reason why Frank Lampard is not in the job. Pep Guardiola came out yesterday. He said, listen, there's no such thing as processes or projects in football. It's a results-based business. And as you pointed out, especially at a club as impatient and cutthroat as Chelsea, that's just how it goes. However, I can't, like, there are major question marks coming from these articles that you have to ask about every aspect of Chelsea. Roman, Marina, Petr Cech, the players, and Frank Lampard. I think there's so many questions. You have to look at every single one of them. Like, how did a situation get this bad this quickly? I mean, they were saying Frank Lampard, if it was any other club outside of Chelsea, would have resigned. That's insane. So again, we're gonna move into Tuco in a second. But if a club legend like Frank Lampard was in this toxic of a situation, I can't even imagine how it was under Villas-Boas a few years ago. I can't imagine how it's going to be like under Tuchel, who is notorious for having poisonous relationships with every board he's been at. I'm baffled. I'm truly baffled.
No, this is a very good point that you bring up. And I think this is something that needs to be highlighted. I'm pretty sure I'm going to highlight this on my Twitter page. I hope the people that have logged into on this probably understands the fact that, with all being said, what Lyes just said, Frank Lampard was so close to walking out, and the Athletic article does state that. And for him to walk out kind of states that how toxic the environment is. And I think that is something that we need to also understand and consider, the fact that needs to be sorted, because it cannot be that toxic for a manager. Because if a manager comes into a club and constantly feels that they need to get out of here because it's just not workable, well then, as you said, Tuchel, who we're going to talk about, let's talk about him right now. He's going to come in. He clashes heads on a regular basis with the board. So let's talk about this, Lyes, right?
Yeah.
Tuchel Tuchel has gone to. He was there with Dortmund. He's been there with PSG, and he's been well known to clash heads with the hierarchy. So how does he approach this job, knowing we're notorious at sacking managers who do that?
First of all, I'm quite surprised actually that he chose to take the job in January. I would have thought for him it would probably be best to wait until the summer. Wait until we see what happens with Chelsea. I mean, does he say they don't make the top four? Would he still want to take over the club if they are in the Europa League? Potentially. I don't know that for sure. But I see this guy said Tuchel will age 10 years faster in the next few months. I have to agree, man. I have to agree. But in terms of what kind of manager Chelsea are getting, I don't know if you want to get into that, but I think there are extremely exciting times ahead as a Chelsea fan. I think the football is going to improve. I think the energy around the club is going to improve. I think most importantly, a lot of these big name players, I think there will be a good role and a good change of fortunes for a lot of these players as Thomas Tuchel comes in.
Yeah, Werner, well said, man. I was just looking at the comments here. Let's just quickly address this. Not this one, sorry. I think, when is Tuchel being announced? Just quickly, I was actually just typing to Junior Mitchell. I think the word is that he might get announced later today, whether that's, I think, 6 p.m. UK time or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm positive that it will be sometime today, because there is words that he's going to be in the bench somewhere sitting in the Wolves game. He's not going to be controlling the Wolves game, but he's going to be sitting in the bench. So, yeah, it's going to happen sometime today, and then he's going to somehow sort of feature against the Wolves game. He's not going to take over it, but hopefully the Burnley game, it will be his team. But yeah, Lyes, let's get into the whole, topic of Tuchel even deeper. Mm-hmm. From your perspective, a lot of people want to know, what sort of, what style of football that Tuchel's going to bring in. How does he play? You're a man that watches a lot of football. I don't get to watch so much, but I have seen PSG play. I have seen Dortmund play under his regime. I liked it, man. It was good attacking, flowing football. Lots of technicality, good strategy. He's got great tactical awareness. Obviously, he's taken the PSG team to the final of Champions League last season, and I watched that final against Bayern Munich. And to be honest, I don't think he was too far off Bayern Munich. That was a good final from PSG, to be honest.
I mean, you look at the final. I think PSG had the better opportunities. Yeah. On a different day, the biggest chances fell to Kylian Mbappe and Neymar, and they failed to take them.
100%. And this is a Bayern Munich team that demolished everyone that was in front of them last season.
Yep.
And I felt like Tuchel just missed the trick right at the end. It was probably just the Bayern Munich quality that put them over the line. Your thoughts about Tuchel's game plan and how he sets up, and what could we probably expect from him in Chelsea with the kind of players that we have?
Yeah, I mean, Thomas Tuchel is kind of what a lot of people like to call a laptop manager. Like, he is very idealistic, very tactical. He loves his ideas. He's very bright. He's very, very positive. I think that's the key word. In Thomas Tuchel, he has this style of play that's synonymous with him called juego de posición. And that means that it's just players moving into space, players showing up for each other. Mm-hmm. Every player always has two options. It's just a lot of movement, a lot of energy, and very quick, entertaining football. Yeah. When I look at Thomas Tuchel, though, I see two different versions of him. I see the Thomas Tuchel at Borussia Dortmund, and I see the Thomas Tuchel at PSG, obviously, right? Like, they're two different coaches. But I think when he came to PSG, there kind of became a different side of Thomas Tuchel that we saw. And that became more of the man-manager side of Thomas Tuchel, because naturally he took over these Eagles and Neymar and Mbappe. He was dealing with Leonardo, who is a very notorious board member to deal with. Just the politics in Paris Saint-Germain. Like, it was just a totally different experience to what he experimented at Borussia Dortmund, where all he had to do really was come second to Bayern, and it's considered a good season. He did do very well at Borussia Dortmund. And when you look at like the way he plays, his tactics, what we can see from Chelsea, his main formation is like 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3. But I think what's really interesting about this is why it's going to bode so well for Chelsea is that he doesn't play with actual wingers. when you look at all the wingers that he's played with throughout his career, they've been more of like wide forwards, narrow, like number 10.
Yeah, they stay closer.
Yes. And you look at let's go through some of the names. His first year at Borussia Dortmund, it was Henrik Mkhitaryan on the right, Marco Reus on the left, and Aubameyang up in the middle. None of them are real wingers. In fact, Mkhitaryan had his best year ever under Thomas Tuchel. He made United go and spend 30 million for him, and we know how that story ended. But he thrived in Thomas Tuchel's system. The next year, he lost Mkhitaryan. He brought on Ousmane Dembele, and Ousmane Dembele became one of Europe's best wide players in Europe overnight. Completely, most assists in the Bundesliga, 12 goals, unreal season. He comes to PSG, and still he didn't play with actual wingers. Neymar was kind of playing as a number 10. He kind of changed the formation. In fact, he changed to a 4-2-2-2. And it was more of Neymar in a number 10 position, Di Maria kind of a narrow winger, Kylian Mbappe a narrow winger. You had the likes of Mauro Icardi, Cavani. But the main thing to take away from all of this is that his forward lines are always so fluid and so dynamic and always so interchanging that you're not going to get Ziyech sitting on the right, Pulisic sitting on the left, and then just them crossing the ball in 50 times a game. You're not going to get that. What you are going to get is Reece James and Ben Chilwell bombing up the wing backs though. That's another huge facet.
They're the ones who are going to provide the width.
Thomas Tuchel, his fullbacks are basically wingers. They provide all the width in his formations, whether you look at Bernat, Schmelzer, Piszczek. These are the wingers in his formation. They're going to thrive. Of course, he has Silva and Zuma. I think that's a match made in heaven. I really think you have the basis of a really good center back partnership with them. The issue, and this is the issue that Frank Lampard had, is the midfield. That's the issue that I really see with this Chelsea team. There's not a good balance. I don't think there's a first phase midfielder in there that can comfortably take the ball off the center backs, quickly turn like a Thiago does, find the more attacking players.
You look at Tuchel in PSG, Lyes. Yeah. He had the likes of Verratti. He even played Marquinhos sometimes in midfield.
Paredes as well is a very comfortable.
Paredes as well. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I feel like he could do something with the likes of Kante, Mason Mount, and perhaps Kovacic. They could. I feel like you will get a lot more out of our midfield. Like, do you feel it may not be the same as how Frank was sort of using it? Do you feel like we will be a lot more resolute in midfield under Tuchel?
I'm going to say something that I'm sure a lot of your Chelsea fans aren't going to like. I can definitely see a return to the lineup for Jorginho. I can almost absolutely see it because you look at first of all, his main guy at Dortmund in that middle of the pitch is Julian Weigl. He was that central defensive midfielder who, again, he does that role of sitting deep, picking the ball off of his center backs and keeping play moving. And whatever we want to say about Kante, great player. Mason Mount, great player. Kovacic, I think, has the potential to be a really, really good Thomas Tuchel player. But the only profile that this club currently has in this new school number 6 position is Jorginho. And trust me, I don't like Jorginho any more than I'm sure most of your Chelsea fans do either. But I think when you talk about a player like a manager like Tuchel, who's so like believing in his own system and in his own tactics, I think he's going to give Jorginho at least a chance when he walks through the door. Whether it's right or wrong, that'll be yet to be seen. But I can definitely see him being brought into the fold.
Bro, I mean, there was a comment. First of all, Declare, thank you for the super chat. Just quickly, here's a theory. I feel Tuchel is a manager best prepared for Champ League being the main focus for PSG. Just could go interesting. 100% agree, man. I feel like this is probably why one of the biggest reasons that Roman has made this change is, one, we need to secure Champions League for next season, and two, we've got a big match against Atletico Madrid. And, who best to sort of set us up than Thomas Tuchel. But just going back to your point, Lyes, there was a comment here from Arman Ali that I wanted to bring. I hope God he doesn't revive Jorginho and Rudiger's career. I just want to say this to the fan base, and Lyes, you let me know what your thoughts are as well. Don't be opposed to the fact that Jorginho may come back. I know the fan base at this moment do not like Jorginho. But I think it has a lot to do with how Frank Lampard was sort of using his midfield. He wanted a lone DM and attacking aids. He wanted his DM to be far more athletic and whatnot. It may be the same as what Tuchel might want with Jorginho, as Lyes was sort of alluding to. He may want a sort of player sitting in there who's good with the ball control, quick foot, one-touch pass, more like Sarri, how he used Jorginho. So, Liz, are you in the agreement that a player can look phenomenal depending on how the manager uses them, and at the same time they could look poor on how manager could use them? You sort of agree?
100%. The biggest. Again, I'll bring it back to United. The biggest person that did that was Fred. Fred under Jose Mourinho, I was saying we should sell him after 6 months. I was questioning who scouted him for 50 million. I was questioning money laundering and stuff like that. It was absolutely unreal. Solskjaer has kind of came into the club, and I like that shout. He should use Billy Gilmore. We'll get into that. I think he came into the club and he made Fred a more of like a resolute box-to-box midfielder, and he's really got the best out of Fred.
Yeah.
Will Tuchel be able to do that with Jorginho? I think at the moment that's the stopgap he's going to have to use, because Tuchel is a very flexible manager. Like I said, like he played 4-2-3-1 at Dortmund. He realized he doesn't have all the tools at PSG to do that. He kind of changed to a more resolute, compact team. So that like again, maybe he will use Kovacic in that deeper role, but I think the main thing is he needs to have a technically consistent, a technically composed, comfortable player in that middle of the pitch to kind of start off attacks. And it might look better for Jorginho in this newer Chelsea team, because under Sarri, I think the problem with Sarri, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think Sarri put too much of an impetus on Jorginho. I think he made it too much the center of attention, like everything had to be Jorginho ball. Sorry,
everything was going through Jorginho. He literally had about close to 150 touches almost every match.
Yeah, it was too much. But I do like the shout that someone just gave on Billy Gilmore. I think Billy Gilmore is a tremendous player. I think he kind of that profile I'm talking about. He kind of portrays that. He's very comfortable on the ball. He's very bright. He's very positive. I really like Billy Gilmore, and I do hope that Thomas Tuchel gives him a chance in that position as well.
No, 100%. I admire Billy Gilmore as well. I hope that he stays in the club and acts. Look, I'm not sure whether he's going to be the number one selection. I'm not really even sure who's going to be the number one selection under Thomas Tuchel. But I'm just saying to the fan base, be open, because we could see the likes of Rudiger and Jorginho. Liz, here's another thing. Jorginho was rumored to go to PSG when Tuchel was around.
Yes.
And Rudiger was another player to PSG when Tuchel was around. So I'm not going to be surprised if Tuchel comes in and reinstates some of these players. All I'm basically saying to the fan base is that just be open-minded. At the end of the day, all we want is that these players perform, right? That's all we want. I mean, I don't care if Rudiger comes in or Jorginho comes in. If they're playing well and we are winning games, that's all we can ask for, right? So,
absolutely.
Massive shout out. Yeah, go on, man.
No, I was going to say that's basically the key thing to keep in mind here. Like, I don't think Rudiger has a place in this Chelsea team, right? I know he's probably been in contact with Tuchel in the last few days, the last week. But at the end of the day, like I said this a lot about Lampard, you have to play the players that are going to help you win. And Rudiger at this point in his career is not going to help you win. If you want an aggressive, defensive-minded player, kind of like what he had in Presnel Kimpembe at PSG, he has that in Kurt Zouma. He already has that.
100%.
He's, for me, a better, younger, he's just in general a much better footballer and defender than Rudiger is at this stage in his career. So it doesn't really matter what relationship the two have. It's going to be Zouma and Silva long term. Kepa's an interesting one. Kepa, I don't know about that one, because people can say, Kepa might be better with his feet than Mendy, but Kepa is losing you games at a rapid rate, man. You cannot afford to play that guy in any game. So like you were saying, like the players who kind of threw Lampard on the bus, like, are they expecting things to change dramatically when a new manager comes in? Alonso is not going to play at Chelsea, whether it's Tuchel. You'd have to bring Conte back and maybe he'll get a chance at playing, but it's just not going to happen.
No, absolutely. Look, Alonso is someone I don't think has any opportunity even under Tuchel, because let's face it, Alonso is best at left wing back, and I don't know how much Tuchel's going to play that formation. All I know that maybe he may, on his first session, see everyone out, and I'm pretty sure he's smart enough to realize how he wants to set up moving forward in the rest of the season, and who could be possibly as backups. And I just hope that Tuchel comes in and he really makes a statement, Lyes, that you are not part of my plan. So see ya. I feel like, I don't know if Frank really did that. I wish he kind of did that and made it very obvious to some of these players that we can talk, like we can sit down and have a conversation, but my squad is bloated. I can't have space for everyone. So you need to go. This is where I sort of respected Sarri. And I don't know, a lot of people are going to say, oh, he was very harsh on Cahill. But Lyes, honestly, when Sarri came in, he saw Cahill and he straight away made the decision that this guy is not good on the ball. And the way I play, which is build up from the back, lots of movement, lots of passing at the back, he needed someone like David Luiz and Rudiger, who's, capable of doing that alongside with Jorginho. So I just hope that Tuchel comes in and basically just says, if he does find certain players that he doesn't like, to say, you better start finding another home. And I hope that the board backs him. I just want to quickly touch on the inside forwards that you were talking about. It's not really genuinely wingers. How do you see basically, the likes of Callum Hudson-Odoi, Pulisic, and you were talking a little bit about Ziyech. But talk to me about Kai Havertz. How do you? Because one of the big reasons why this guy's coming in is that German connection with Timo Werner and Kai Havertz. How do you sort of picture these guys fitting in?
I mean, we can go through the forwards. I want to leave Havertz kind of till the end because I might have an unpopular opinion on this, but I'll leave him more to the end. I think there are players that clearly fit the way he wants to play. Christian Pulisic, I think, has a major part to play in this team, and I'm not saying that because he's American. I'm American. Like I have no
they've got history as well, right?
I have no bias.
They've got history.
Yes, absolutely. But I think just the way he wants to play with these narrow forwards. Pulisic is a player that likes to go down through the middle, like dribble at players, run at players. I think he's a dream Tuchel player, and I think especially at this stage in his career, he's much better for me than he was at Dortmund. Much better. Yeah. Hudson-Odoi, I think, is going to be given a new lease of life under Tuchel. I
feel as well.
I think, again, he's just another dynamic winger that loves to run up players. He loves to come inside. He loves to go out wide. I think there are similarities between him and Ousmane Dembele in that 2016-17 season. He can kind of be his Dembele in a way that, this is a guy that loves to run at defenders. Like, defenders cannot rest when Hudson-Odoi is running at you, and he has to be utilized a lot more than Frank Lampard and Maurizio Sarri utilized him in the last few years. I think a guy that could be given a new lease of life under Tuchel is actually Timo Werner. When you look at Dortmund, you had Aubameyang, and Aubameyang every single game for Dortmund in the 2016-17 season had the least amount of touches out of any outfield player. True. And you might say, why is that? Like, is he not getting involved? No, he was purely being used as an outlet poacher. He was purely being used as a guy who sits on the last line and just score. Mkhitaryan and Aubameyang was the most fearsome duo in Europe that season. And I think that bodes well for Werner because Werner, we've seen, is not a player that you want on the ball, getting involved in link-up, playing with his fullback. Like, that's just not where you want Timo Werner. He's a very technically limited player. But the one facet he has that probably no one in the Premier League can match him with or beat him at is speed. He's a fast player. You put that guy on the last line of defenses and just feed him balls in. I don't know how good his finishing is at this point because he's looked very suspect, but he's going to get a lot more chances and he's going to look a lot livelier than he has these last few months at Chelsea. He's looking like the ghost of Andriy Shevchenko at the moment. So he needs a new lease of life, and I think Tuchel can provide him that. Like, you look at Mbappe too at Chelsea. Obviously, Mbappe is a much better player than Aubameyang and Werner, but I think in terms of profile, in terms of the way they were being used, another forward that's just fast, that sits on the last line, and you just feed him balls in and in and in. Yeah. Abraham, I think, also has a role to play in this team. I think whatever Chelsea fans or United fans or any fan wants to say about him, like, he just provides you something that the others don't. He's just an all-around good number 9. But we'll talk about Ziyech as well. Ziyech, I've seen a lot of people are saying, we could be looking at a similar Angel Di Maria role. I wonder where Ziyech fits into this team because as a wide forward, like I was talking to you about, like, he likes his players, Tuchel, to be guys that can run at you and cause havoc like that. Ziyech is not really a 1v1 player who picks up the ball and dribbles 3 players. Like, he's a player that's very intricate, gets on the ball, looks for the right pass, great ball in behind. Like, that in-swinger from right to left is just dangerous. But I wonder in the system where he fits in. I could almost see him, like, how would he play in a number 10 position? I'd love to see him in that kind of role. But out wide, I don't really see what his best fit in this Tuchel system is. But then we get to Kai Havertz. And this is really the one that I'm wondering, where does he fit in, right? Because we still don't know what Kai Havertz's best position is, his best role is. Is he a number 9?
Do you think he could possibly do what Tammy was saying, that you said about Tammy? He could possibly act as a number 9?
As a number 9, potentially. But the thing is, like, I think Kai Havertz is a player you have to build your entire attack around, right? Because he's such a unique player. He doesn't really move a lot. He's not making runs in behind. He's not getting 50 touches a minute. Like that's just not what Kai Havertz is. But he's a player you have to build your attack around. Like if you want to make him that central player, you have to be just feeding him time after time after time. And has he shown that he's good enough to be that kind of player? I know coming out of Bayer Leverkusen, he definitely showed that. But at Chelsea, nothing has suggested that he should be a player that much importance is thrown at him. I really do question where in this Tuchel system, or where under most systems that are rigid and that have a clear structure, how does Kai Havertz thrive if he's not the guy? I really wonder that, and that's probably the biggest question. That's probably the biggest issue Thomas Tuchel has at Chelsea, because he's been brought in to do what Frank Lampard couldn't do, and that's get the best out of these multi-million pound signings. And like I said, I think he can get the most out of most of them. But Kai Havertz, listen, man, I claim to know football, but I'm not a genius.
Look, man, 100% agree with a lot of things that you've said in regards to Timo Werner, how he may be used. Ziyech, he probably won't be used as a winger. And then again, Thomas Tuchel is someone that doesn't play with a winger that hugs the line. Do you know what I mean? So he could possibly be more in the central areas. And that may suit someone like Ziyech. I think the way he may use Kai Havertz, and I'm not sure, will yet to be seen, is I think he's going to play Kai Havertz further up the pitch, man. I just feel like he's going to play what you've just described that Tammy Abraham does for us. I think Kai will be there to do that for Timo Werner. And for me, a lot of people sort of think that Kai Havertz is a pure playmaker. I don't think he is. I think he's a pure scorer. I think he's a goal scorer. I think he can play something that I suppose Liverpool does with Firmino as a false nine up front. Then you have the inside forwards to come in the likes of Salah and Mane. I think Kai Havertz can do that for us, and he can actually provide goals. So let's see what happens in regards to that. We're obviously yet to see. Before we get into the other things on this particular discussion, I just want to quickly talk to you about, do you know, we've got a particular individual in our fan base. His name is Rory Jennings. He's quite well known. Yeah. He's infamous, I suppose. That's how he's known. He's going out yesterday, and I wanted to talk to this. I'm pretty sure everyone's going to be interested to know this, because that really annoyed me. This goes back to the whole situation where he's blaming the players again, and specifically Timo Werner and Kai Havertz. He's called out two of these players and blaming them and saying they're the ones who got Frank Lampard sacked. From a rival's point of view, man, how do you what's your perspective when you see people kind of make that kind of outlandish sort of statements?
Yeah. I like what this guy just said. Not a Chelsea man. I watch a lot of the kickoff. Even in the US, I watch a lot of True Geordie, a lot of that, and he's a regular on the True Geordie. And to be honest with you, from what I've seen, I have no beef with him. Like, I can't speak too much on him, but that comment he made last year or 2 years ago, Maurizio Sarri can never be Chelsea manager because he's not a Chelsea man. That stuck out to me because it was halfway through the season. He hadn't even played that Carabao Cup final. He had made his opinion on him immediately. And I remembered that because even before he kind of got back into the spotlight and people have been talking about recently, I've watched the way he's defended Frank Lampard time and time again. And it's natural, right? This is his boyhood hero. Rory is obviously an older Chelsea fan. This is a guy he grew up watching from his debut at Stamford Bridge to the end. So he obviously has an affiliation with him. But to not give to basically turn a blind eye on what's happened with Frank Lampard this season when he never gave that luxury to previous managers,
it's crazy.
It's being ludicrous, right? It doesn't make sense. You're not being consistent. You're not being fair to every. It makes me think that his intent, his hopes of success lie with Frank Lampard and not with the club, because I've said it on numerous times. Regardless of what I think about Solskjaer, he has to receive a fan's backing regardless of what happens. Like, as long as he's Manchester United manager, I have to believe in him. I have to give him my support. Whether I believe it or not, that's another subject. But it's clear that Rory doesn't feel that way. And for him also to come out and say Roman Abramovich is he what does he say? He's an invader into the club. He doesn't understand the morals of the club. Roman Abramovich is Chelsea Football Club. Like, he is the founding father of Chelsea Football Club.
Bro, just on that, there's a clip that's going around for Rory where during the Sarri season, this whole thing came out. And I think True Geordie was saying, Roman's a kind of owner that's been chopping and changing. And Rory actually backed that. He said, "What's wrong with chopping?"
He said that's what this club is built on. Like, we want success, we want trophies. And now for him,
all
now,
of a sudden,
yeah,
this is
now he wants to come in and say, okay, I loved what Lampard was doing because he was giving us an identity and he was backing the youth. Well, you can't have an identity and back the youth and also want to be ruthless and win trophies, and that's the be all end all. That's the point of a project. The point of a project is it's a process. It takes time. So if you were willing to give that process and that time and that belief and that money into Frank Lampard, why were you not willing to give that to Maurizio Sarri? Not saying that Sarri was the right guy for Chelsea. I don't believe that at all. I think it was a really poor fit. I think the thing with Chelsea is I think there's a lot of fans like Rory, and I think most of them share his belief, and they just don't have the same platform as him, and they weren't willing to. Yeah, when I say that, I mean like match-going fans, right? Not fans like us, but the match-going fans have more of an affinity to a Frank Lampard than a Maurizio Sarri. But at the end of the day, you have to give these guys the same amount of respect, and you have to basically look at them the same way, as hard as it may be.
No, 100%, man. Yeah, like my basically the message is, he's got close to 70K subscribers, Lyes. He's got 70K subscribers.
He's a big figure, yeah.
Figure, and he's gone around stating these kind of things, and off the back of his message last night against Timo, Werner and Havertz, some of these players got the biggest abuse online through Instagram. He needs to be well aware of what he's saying, and as you said, people like him, if they get into the bandwagon of backing the manager and being there and being objective, like back the manager when you need to, be objective when you need to, then I think, the message is going to be far better. When he does what he's doing already, and he's already against Thomas Tuchel, I think he's already Thomas Tuchel out to an extent.
Like what hope could Thomas Tuchel have if you're already making up your mind on him now? He has to win the treble for you to believe in him? Like it doesn't make sense to me.
Absolutely, man. Let's get into the final sort of section of this discussion.
Yeah.
Thomas Tuchel, obviously, he hasn't been announced yet, but it's going to happen.
Yeah.
What do you think the outlook for Chelsea is? And from a rival's point of view, obviously when Frank was there, we're going through a bad run for the past couple of months. Do you feel now with Tuchel in, Chelsea could have a bit of an uplift? And would you be surprised if we go for a bit of a run and then we start technically looking better, we start playing good football? What do you think is going to happen?
I think, as it often does, when a new manager comes in, there's always a boost around the club, right? Like it always happens. The players who were on the periphery under the previous manager are given a new lease of life. They raise their performances up. And I'm sure a lot of Chelsea fans are going to be upset when they see players that were really struggling under Lampard kind of go up a level. People are going to be like, okay, where was this a few months ago? Did you down tools? But I think it's just normal. That's a new manager bounce. It always happens, or almost always happens. So yeah, I could definitely see that at Chelsea. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Thomas Tuchel. I think the ideas are going to be interesting to see in the Premier League. I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like Thomas Tuchel in this league. And it really depends on what the fixtures look like, right? It doesn't get any easier than Wolves, or it doesn't get any harder than Wolves, excuse me. They always, these are tough teams. And I saw someone in the comments say, how will he adapt to the Premier League? That's a question that you really have to ask, because this is a league unlike any other. It's physical, it's athletic, but like I said, one thing of Tuchel that people don't give him credit for is how adaptable and how flexible he is. Like his Dortmund team and his PSG team are nothing alike. One of them
lost that in the last couple of months, being that flexible, that adaptable, which he was last season. He just kept to that 4-3-3 a lot. Like, do you feel like that might have had a bit of a detrimental effect?
I think this year it definitely did, but I think last year that 4-2-2-2 that he kind of implemented at PSG, I think he did that to get the best out of his team, and that's something I really like, because I remember when Van Gaal took over at United, one thing I hated was that he brought in this formation that he was so stuck in his ways about, and he made players play in positions that they didn't want to play just to fit that formation. For example, Di Maria was playing center mid at one point. Van Persie was playing number 10. Fellaini was playing striker. Like he was the one to convert Ashley Young into a left wing back. So I definitely didn't like that. I like managers who come in and are open-minded and see the players that they have and build the best winning formula around those players. And I think that's what Thomas Tuchel consistently does. At PSG, he realized that his strengths were in Neymar and Mbappe, and he kind of focused the attack around them. It wasn't the same team as at Dortmund. It had very similar ideologies, and the way they played was a bit similar, but the setup, structure, and the shape was they weren't the same team. So at Chelsea, I think he's going to come in. He's going to see the players that he likes, the players he doesn't like. Like I said, I see renewed roles for players like Hudson-Odoi, like Werner. I do see them kind of getting a new lease of life under Tuchel. But there are going to be players that Tuchel drops, and they may be fan favorites. They may be players that you really like, but at the end of the day, he's not going to see them as a suitable piece to bringing Chelsea Football Club forward. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters, right? It's the club over anyone.
100%, 100%. Look, I said it in a couple of streams yesterday, and then I want to say to my viewers as well that I've logged in. So shout out to nearly almost 130 people, 123 at the moment. Please smash that like button. 41 likes at the moment. Get me to at least 70. Smash that up. Even try and get me to 100. And also my boy Lyes. I'll have all his information in the description, but you can see some other previous videos where Lyes has been around. So please subscribe to his channel as well. But going back to the whole, Tuchel situation, man. I was saying yesterday that I will not be one bit surprised, Lyes, that if we go on a bit of a run now. I will not be one bit surprised if we smash Wolves, smash Burnley, smash Spurs, because I feel like Tuchel will bring a sense of tactical nous. Like he'll bring a game plan. He's not gonna be, his in-game management is not gonna be rigid. He's gonna adapt. If something goes wrong in the game, he will tactically change that around to make us a lot better. So I'm not gonna be surprised if we see certain players that were probably not playing to their utmost level a couple of months ago, that all of a sudden they're playing much better. I'm not going to be one bit surprised.
One thing though that you do say, like, oh, things are going to change, like Tuchel's a fantastic manager. All this stuff is true. But one thing that's also true is that's going to take a while to get Tuchel's ideas into place. Like this is not going to be a change that happens overnight. This is something that, this is why I said it might have been smarter for Tuchel to take the job in the summer. This is a manager that's going to need numerous training sessions, numerous sessions with these players to get to know them and implement his philosophy into their brains. Like playing Tuchel ball is not like playing Lampard ball in the slightest. High press, high movement, high energy. Like this is going to be it's going to be a culture shift for a lot of these players, and it's not going to be a change that happens overnight. No,
100% agreed, man. Obviously, this will take a bit of time, but I'm just thinking that initial sort of kick. Yeah. I'm not going to be surprised that these players will start playing well. But you're right, man. For this style to sort of embed, it will take a bit of time. But I feel like we will see the style sort of being embedded. Like I feel like with Frank in the last couple of months, and the fan base will agree, there was no identity of our style. Like it just felt like Frank, everything he sort of built last season was sort of disappearing this season. Our press was so much better last season, whereas this season our press wasn't that great. There's a comment here from Lampard press was non-existent. This is true. But last season,
which was something I was very surprised. I think you're just about to say it. Actually, last season you guys were a better team in the press. I remember the semifinal of the FA Cup against United. You guys pressed us off the park. And this year, I don't know if it was new players. Like I said, like this is where I struggled to see a role for Havertz. Havertz is not going to be a guy who's pressing from the front. It's just not going to happen. So. Yeah, it's definitely going to be a huge shift from Lampard to Tuchel, 100%.
For sure. Just quickly, I want to touch on a couple of these comments before I ask Les the last question. What do you expect Chelsea to finish in the table? Look, honestly, top four looks really, really tough now because there's massive competition. But with Tuchel in, I'm confident again that we can put some wins together, honestly, because if I'm not confident now, then I'm never going to be confident. So under Frank Lampard, I was just worried that the way this was going, I was getting really worried that we were going to get wins against any club, let alone the top club. So now we Tuchel in. Hopefully we see a kick up from the players, and then hopefully the style starts dictating and we start winning the bigger games. Yeah. Look, I still want to lose hope of getting the top four, and I think that should be the minimum achievement for this season. We did have other expectations, but for me, that would be the minimum achievement. Les, finally, did you sort of expect that Frank Lampard was going to be the first one sacked out of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and the Frank Lampard race? Is that what you expected?
I mean, last year, definitely not. Like I've been very clear with this. I'm not this huge Ole Gunnar Solskjaer fan.
You're not.
Yeah, I'm definitely not. I'm definitely not a Frank Lampard fan. I think they are very similar. Like they're one is not a much better tactician than the other. One is not a much better manager than the other. But I think Ollie really found a way of getting the best out of this team. And at the end of the day, that's all you can really ask for. Did I expect it? For the last few weeks I have, man. I told you after the Leicester game, you asked me, what does Frank Lampard have to do to save the season? I thought it was over. I thought there was nothing else he could personally do on this team, and I've been proven right. But now it's on to the Thomas Tuchel regime. What can we expect from him? What can we expect from Chelsea Football Club? I think you said top 4 is a long shot. It's not a long shot, but it's going to be tough. Someone just said that a lot of teams have games in hand. Aston Villa has 2 games in hand. Southampton, I just said 1 game in hand. Everton are up there. Leicester are flying. Spurs are flying. So it's going to be a really tough season, and Tuchel really has to hit the ground running to ensure that Chelsea can finish in the top 4 this season.
100%, man, 100%. You still think Man United to win the league? Are you confident, or?
Nah. I've been pretty stable on this one too. I think it is City's league to win. Yeah. I think what will really decide it, because I think United has a really easy run of games coming up right now. If they win all of those games, right? Sheffield, Arsenal, Fulham, if they can win all of those games, and then City has a month in February where they play Mönchengladbach, Liverpool, Spurs, Arsenal, I think you guys as well. If we can win our games and they can kind of drop a few points here or there, then I think United could be in it at the end. But at the moment, I'd have to say Man City is the favorite. I just think they have found a balance between Stones and Diaz that really complements the team well, because they aren't the same goal-scoring machine they used to be, but I think that defense has now kind of offset that. So I do think City are probably the favorites at the moment.
Nah, man, I think City is the favorite as well. I can't wait till the next time Chelsea faces Man United, because, it's going to be good, Lyes. It's going to be good. I can't wait to bring you on, and hopefully Tuchel's on a run.
I told you, I wish we played you guys when Lampard was in charge this last few rounds. I wish we could have played you.
I do want to state this particular comment, because this is, look, guys, 122 people online right now watching us. I want to make a statement here. For my main man, Lyes, Man United, I don't like Man United, but I like this guy a lot. He's honestly, look at him as my younger brother. I want to read this out. What a fantastic, knowledgeable guest. Miz goes to show that sometimes it's really valuable and refreshing to get balance outside of Chelsea supporters' views. Well done, guys. Honestly, guys, if you haven't subscribed to Lyes' channel, which is Lotta Mid, I'm going to have all the information in the description. But I'll let Lyes sort of do the plugging, bro. This is your time. Shine.
I thank you for Declan Ireland for the nice comment. But yeah, my channel is not just about Man United. It's about football in general. I try and give a non-biased outlook on all of the big teams in Europe. Of course, United is my team, so I do show a bit of bias here or there. But if you guys love football content and you love football compilations and talks about old players, old teams, new teams, I think Lotta Mid is the channel for you, and I'd really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel.
100%. Lotta Mid, guys. Lotta Mid. As Lyes said, he is a Man United fan, but he covers every football, like pretty much, after every big 6 games, he covers all of them. So, guys, honestly, subscribe to his channel. So all up, guys, as we wrap things up, please smash that like button. 58 likes so far, 122 people online. Get that up to at least 70, guys. And guys, special announcement. I will have, I think it's, 10 p.m. UK today. So it's morning for me because I'm in Sydney. But 10 p.m. UK, guys, tune in. I'm going to have the guys from Wolves, Talking Wolves. They're Wolves Fan TV, pretty big fan TV. I think they've got about 10K subscribers. We're going to be doing a preview with them. I could possibly have some other guys with me, some Chelsea fans. So please look out for that. I'll have that page set up very, very soon. But yeah, guys, thank you heaps for joining, and hope you guys enjoyed this. Lyes, my man, thank you once again for the time. We're going to have Lyes back once a week, every week from here on in. The show's called Whole Lot of Lyes. Not Whole Lot of Lyes, Whole Lot of Chaos. Obviously, there is a lot of Lyes here, but it'll be called Whole Lot of Chaos. So, guys, thank you heaps. Until next time, see ya.